Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Joel Madden, and this is Artist Friendly. On this episode, I'll be talking to my friend Patrick Miranda from the band Movements. We'll be talking about their latest album, Ruckus, and a whole bunch of other things like Will Yip and anxiety. Let's go.
I don't want no bad times. I don't want to have bad.
Patrick.
What's up?
Movements.
Yes, sir.
How you doing?
I'm good, man. How
Thanks
are you?
for coming. Good, man.
Thank you so much for having me.
Dude, I'm stoked you're here.
Yeah. I'm super excited to be here.
You know, I'm a fan of your band. I'm trying to think of when we first met.
Dude, it was 2016 or 2017.
Yeah.
We did that tour in Canada. You guys, Silverstein, Palais Royale, and us.
Yeah.
That was like our first ever like big tour. Like that was the first time that we were like, oh shit. Like a big band wants to take us on tour. That's insane. Yeah,
That was a great tour.
It was awesome. It was terrifying for multiple reasons. One of which being that it was like still very much kind of like winter time in Canada, and us being kind of like young guns still touring in like a van and trailer. There was some scary nights, but it was like awesome and totally worth it.
What year did you guys get together?
2015. Well, technically 2014. We put out our first song though, like January 1st of 2015.
Right.
And that was just like a demo that we were like, fuck it, like let's see what happens. You know, let's like try this thing out, and if it works, and then it works. And then I think by probably like summer to fall of 2015, we like played our first show, and it like popped off, and we were like, damn, okay, like this might be a thing.
We're pretty good at this.
We were okay.
Yeah. Well, bands will never say we're pretty good at this, but I always try to get them to say it because
I feel like I can say it now, you know.
Well, you guys are, in my opinion, you know, what I would say of newer bands, even though it's been long enough now that you say you're not a new band, but at my age, when you look at bands and you go, okay, they're in the newer school.
Totally. Yeah.
I'd say you guys are one of the bands that I find to be the authentic version of something, you know?
Yeah.
It feels like you're making art, and it's not a
gimmick.
It's not a gimmick. It's not a plan.
Yeah.
You got to have a plan once you make the art.
Totally.
But you got to make the art first.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And sometimes people make the plan first, and then they go, okay, now fill in the slots with art. And like, okay, let's figure. And it's like working in my opinion, anyways, this is just my thought. People listening can disagree with me for sure. And I'm always open to that. But I feel sometimes people work in the wrong order.
Totally.
And I think you gotta go, oh, cool, I want to be in a band. Start, okay, great. I think I could do that. Great. My friends or you find the people that you agree with. Great. Start making art. Great. Oh, now I kind of like these songs.
Yeah.
Now let's figure out how do we bring these out to the world, and how do we, that feels to me like the organic.
Right. And I think that's like very much what our approach was, right? You know, like when we started this band, none of us thought that it was going to be
a job,
or turn into what it's turned into.
A lifestyle.
You know, a lifestyle, a career, like a whole fucking thing, you know? We always had a good feeling about it. You know, we were always like, hey, this is going to be our attempt at actually doing a band for real and you know, trying to actually make it work. But I think our headspace was like, our idea of success at the beginning was more so based around like, okay, can we sell out our hometown venue? Like, can we sell out Chain Reaction at some point? If we can do that as a headlining band and sell out 450 tickets at Chain Reaction, we'll have made it enough for our book, right? Like that was our idea of like, yeah, that's a successful, you know, route. And now here we are fucking 8-9 years later being like, yo, we just sold out the Palladium in Los Angeles. We just did 2 nights in a row at House of Blues in Anaheim.
Problem.
And it's like...
No problem. Movements, no problem.
Next level, right? So none of us ever thought that we would get to this point. And we all would have been happy had we only made it to the point where we were doing, you know, 300,
would you
400
have, though?
rooms. I think like...
Honestly.
I think I would have been like
Are you managing your own expectations so
maybe
that you
a
don't
little.
get disappointed?
I don't think I would have been disappointed because at the end of the day, I just wanted to play music.
Right.
You know, I wanted to create something that was real and honest and
I totally get that.
Connect, right?
Totally.
But at the same time, like, yeah, I think that now that I'm here and I see how successful it can be and the fact that I can turn it into some sort of like a career for myself, I think now I'm like, okay, shit, how much further can we push this? You know, we've already made it so much farther than we expected to make it. Let's keep going. Like, what's next? Where do we go from here? We only want to see like that upwards trajectory, right?
Also, you have to at least realize whether you've talked about it or not, but I feel like you have, because you're like you share. Right?
Yeah, I'm an open book.
Like me, I share. Yeah. I love to share. That's why I have this show.
Yeah.
Because I like to share. Right.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like I got to share enough of the stuff I wanted to share over the years.
Sure.
That's the whole reason we started having this, because I just want to share. I want to talk to people.
Yeah.
And have the conversations we've had.
Yeah.
The couple conversations we've had, I want people to be able to listen in on those conversations.
Right.
So they take something away,
right,
and they get some game before they get into the game.
Totally.
And whether it's an artist or someone starting a business or someone just trying to better their life, they listen to the songs and they get something from it. But then also, like, we learn a lot in trying to make it.
Absolutely.
And like, we make mistakes. If we could go back, we wouldn't make them again. And if we could help people avoid the potholes,
right,
like, that's our job as human beings.
Absolutely.
I think. So my question is, so one, you have to have realized along the way how many people your music has helped, which also drives you.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, okay, now I kind of feel like I have this relationship with these people and they've shared with me. And now I feel like I need to, like, I felt like we gained a responsibility in our band's career,
right,
with so many people. And I'm like, it had to be tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of personal stories I got to hear firsthand, or in a letter, or, you know, however they shared, where you start to feel responsible for the people who have put you there,
right,
and what they get from your music. And it does kind of drive you as well to want to continue to, like, put stuff out and be successful.
Absolutely.
To keep doing that, because it feels good in that way.
Yeah, 100%. I think that the connection with the fan base and the kids who, you know, like you said, who come up to us after each show and pour their hearts out, you know, and let us know, like, you know, their whole life stories or whatever it is that their traumas are, or their struggles and whatnot, and how much our music has impacted them and helped them, right? Ultimately, I guess that wasn't necessarily the goal going into it for us. Like, obviously we wanted to connect with people, but at the end of the day, we were just writing honestly about what we were going through, right? And the fact that it did connect with people and did turn into sort of like, yeah, you're right, a responsibility to be there and show up for the people who do connect with the music. I mean, that was super important, but it was also challenging, you know, like,
it's a heavy weight.
What's that?
It's a heavy weight too.
Yeah. I mean, finding myself in that position where I'm suddenly being thrust into this world of, like, almost being like a mental health advocate and resource for people, you know, like, that was really, heavy and in some cases overwhelming, you know, at times when I was struggling to handle my own issues.
What was your biggest struggle around your mental health?
So I have had struggles with anxiety and depression since I was like a child. Like, I had my first anxiety attacks when I was like literally like 5 or 6 years old, you know.
Did you know what it was at the time?
No, not at all. And my parents didn't really know either.
It's confusing.
Very.
I had my first, I struggled with anxiety for a very long time.
Yeah.
And I still, what I always say is I established a relationship with it.
Yeah.
So now I have a relationship with it, which immediately shrunk it.
Totally.
To a place where most of the time I can manage it 95% of the time.
Yeah.
So it's a great place to be when you've had it. I started having it when I was 11.
Yeah.
And out of nowhere, and I had no idea what it was. Super confusing. You just think you're going to die.
Yeah.
And it's real at the time.
Yeah.
And then I would have those, like, panic attacks. The first year I had it, I had them every night for a year.
Fuck.
Now, I look back after working it out in therapy, and I know what happened that year. There was a lot of trauma that year.
Right, yeah.
So now, of course, I understand, but I didn't at the time.
Right.
And my parents certainly didn't have, like, an education. They were dealing with their own shit.
Right.
So I had my brother, because we shared a room, and I would have a panic attack every night, and he would sit there with me until it was over. And sometimes it was a half hour, sometimes it was 15 minutes, sometimes it was an hour.
Yeah.
And then after that year, almost every night for a year, maybe there were nights where I didn't.
Sure.
But it felt like a whole year of panic attacks. I would have them kind of like weekly.
Damn, yeah.
And then it was just like something I lived with. And I didn't understand what they were until I was in my 20s.
Yeah. Until you have the resources to like help you and like help you realize like, oh, that's
someone tells you this is what you're experiencing.
Exactly.
And these are the, this is lots of people. Also, you feel kind of shameful about it.
Yeah.
Because you're living with this like thing, this episode that happens. And it's like you have these episodes.
Yeah.
And so you start also planning around it.
Yeah.
So you can't go to spend the night at a friend's house.
Right. Because
you can't do this. That's the thing that people don't discuss enough.
Yeah.
Is when things get in the way of us living like a happy life.
Right. Avoidant behaviors because you are afraid of the what ifs of like, oh, well, what if I freak out when I'm doing this thing, when I've got something going on and then, other people are looking at me in a weird way or whatever, Do you
go to therapy?
I do. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Me too.
I've been in therapy for a long time.
Cool.
But I didn't go to therapy until well after I should have.
Me too. I, mean, I didn't even know it really.
Yeah. I mean, my whole childhood, I kind of just dealt with it where I would have, really gnarly anxiety, or I'd have like periods of like, childhood depression where I didn't know why I felt the way that I felt, but I was just like, I knew I felt off, and I would just like every morning when I would wake up for school, like I'd be crying because I just didn't want to go, and I didn't know why I felt the way I felt, all that shit. And then it wasn't until probably like late in high school that I actually really started like trying to actively do something about my mental health, because as I got older, my mental health also like, my issues kind of manifested themselves differently to the point where I was actually diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder.
I have a little bit of that.
Yeah. And that was like really new to me. And obviously, I mean, OCD is just like a form of anxiety, but
it is. It acts out. And
but being treated for anxiety and being treated for obsessive compulsive are like very, very different approaches, right? And it wasn't until I started treating myself for like the OCD side of things that I really started to notice like a big difference. Up until then, my outlet, my way to kind of deal with everything was just putting it into music. And like that was like, this is what I'm feeling. I don't know how else to talk about it. Here it is.
You know what? I feel like while you're saying that, I'm thinking and I'm like realizing why I like your music.
Yeah.
Because I relate. I thought I related to it, but then we've never talked about this before.
Right.
And I feel like I relate to it so deeply, and now I know why I like it.
Yeah.
Because you were pouring all that stuff into your music.
Yeah.
And I related to it, on an energetic, on a spiritual level, right?
Sure. Yeah.
For your OCD, let's say it's a good day on a scale of 1 to 10. Where's your OCD at?
Maybe like a 3 or 4. It's like always there. You know what I mean? It's
3 or 4 isn't a terrible.
Yeah, it's not horrible. I think on a good day where I'm feeling like a day like today, right? I mean, I'm not feeling anxious today. I'm not feeling the way that I, have felt in the past. But it's always there. It's always in the back of my head. I always have like a base level of like, okay, like I'm aware of this. I'm choosing not to draw attention to it, and I'm choosing to continue living and not allow it to affect me. Right? It's not until that anxiety starts to creep up or something happens where I experience some sort of trigger, and then I go spiraling,
How's your anxiety act out when it was bad?
It was
panic attacks, like
panic
breathing.
attacks, shaking, constant, like, pit in my stomach, like just genuine, like freak out moment where it felt like the world is collapsing, like the walls are caving in.
Yeah, no, I know. Was there like a physical thing though that, like, for me, I've always felt like my throat was closing and I was allergic. Like I was having an allergic reaction. I was sure that I was having an allergic reaction.
Sure, yeah.
And that I was going to stop breathing. Never been allergic to anything in my life.
Yeah.
But I'm the one guy who will when I'm anxious and I'm in a very stressful time, I'll have those little moments where I'll eat something. And even my wife, it's a funny joke because she's known me for so long, and we're on the inside together.
Sure.
But if I'm in a very stressful time and we're eating somewhere, I'm like, oh, do you think there's something in this that I'm allergic to? And she's like, hon, I think you just stressed out right now, and
Yeah.
you think you're just having a little anxiety.
Yeah.
She's like, you're fine.